strict new rules to be applied to Paris and other major cities in response to COVID-19. A nighttime curfew will be enforced from this coming weekend for a minimum of 4 weeks.
We have made a decision to impose a curfew. It will be enforced in the Paris region and 8 other French cities.
A new nationwide state of health emergency has been declared in France as President Macron outlined new stricter measures to try and defeat COVID-19. He's announced a curfew that will take place not just here in Paris, but in 8 other of the worst affected cities across France. That will come into force on Saturday and will be from 9 p.m. in the evening until 6 a.m. in the morning. And it will be strictly enforced with the first time that you were caught outside without a good reason, with a fine of €135, but that will go up to €1,500 for repeat offenders. We understand those measures will be in place for at least 4 weeks, but the government wants to try and push that to 6 weeks, taking it to December 1st. And he said, President Macron, that this would be strictly enforced, i.e. if you're at a restaurant and you live half an hour away, you will need to leave the restaurant by 8:30 in the evening. He also talked about reducing private gatherings, saying that 6 was the magic number. And he said if you were with friends and families at a private gathering and you couldn't be more than 1 metre away from each other, you would still have to wear a mask. Well, there was thick and furious reaction to those announcements by President Macron.
60% of infections happen at work, schools or universities between 8 a.m. and 7 p.m. But Macron is banning people from going out to bars or restaurants between 8 p.m. and 6 a.m. Welcome to absurdity.
There must be great disappointment among medics tonight, who have heard no announcements of extra personnel or material support.
Well, President Macron said this was about trying to bring down the number of COVID-19 infections. That came as the latest figures showed there were almost 23,000 new cases of the virus in the 24 hours to Wednesday, with 104 deaths. And President Macron said that the healthcare system was simply overloaded, with staff being exhausted, and he said that the situation was more worrying now than it had been during March at the start of the first wave of the pandemic. Now, these measures will also, of course, affect restaurants, and he said that there would be help for people who worked in those sorts of businesses, with 90% of basic pay being covered by the state. But you can imagine that many businesses who were already hard hit by COVID-19 are probably worrying about what the future will hold for them now. And President Macron said that France would have to live with this virus until at least the summer of 2021. So not just a long winter ahead, but possibly a long spring and a long summer for France, as even stricter measures could be put in place if, as President Macron said, people do not respect the rules and those numbers of COVID-19 infections are not brought down.
We spoke with the health director for Red Cross International, who supports the tougher restrictions.
These tougher measures are welcome, and we, as the Red Cross today, called out for political leaders to intervene in a speedy, courageous and inclusive way to ensure that these measures are put in place to protect the health and the socioeconomic status of the people of France and in many other countries. In Europe, many countries are being taken a little bit by surprise by the rapid surge of cases, and so many countries are reacting within the past 48 hours with new measures that have been put in place. And what is needed at the moment is measures that can reduce the further transmission, but measures that can also bring people along. And this is critical in order to ensure that those measures are actually effective.